Hip hop. What's your thoughts?
Hip hop's interesting art. Is obviously a popular musical form. It's been around since the late '70s, early '80s. I mean, it's a thing that where you could go so many different directions in it. But I mean, I think hip hop is cool. It's unique. Um, it, um, I like it the fact that it brought a lot of people in the world together. It spread all over the world. And the real cool thing about it is it spread all over the world, and it wasn't really pushed by the machine all over the world, which not many music can say that. So I mean, I definitely have a respect for it just off that.
Okay, fast forward to today's time.
Hip hop in today's time, I'm not really a fan of hip hop today's time. But keep it real, like I don't really, for me personally, I don't really listen to hip hop as much as I used to, but I still respect it for what it's done. But as of right now, I can't really say I'm a fan of it. I'm not hating on it. It doesn't really interest me as much as it used to.
It's not a culture anymore. It's a culture.
It's a culture, but it's lost its premise. It's lost its premise. And then when it came out, I'm from the East Coast. When it came out, it was started in the Bronx, and it was more, as Chuck D said, it was a black man CNN. It was like a scene. It was basically telling you what was going on in the neighborhood it originated from. And when it spread worldwide, whether it was the South or the West Coast, it was still telling you what was going on in those environments. You understand? Now it's like
It was art at its finest. Social topics, parties topics, a little bit of everything, all in a form of art, of spoken word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really think. I think the reason why it lost its uniqueness because I think if you look at how it was like, they used to call it the 5 elements of hip hop. It was the b-boys, you had the graffiti guys, you had the DJs. It was more than just being an MC. So number one, on one level, it was kind of telling you what was going on in the cultures it came from. But on the second level, it gave people many different ways to express themselves, which is very different than other types of music. It was more kind of like a music and a culture.
Right.
So it was unique in that. Eventually, as the other elements started being taken out and it just became the MC, it kind of lost that. Especially in the States, at least. It lost that.
MC, right?
Yeah,
the
person
DJs and
rapping.
everything was out of it. So they replaced turntablism with sampleism. They got rid of the b-boys.
I mean, right now the the Asians are actually better b-boys than Americans right now. I mean, who would ever thought that? But no disrespect. I mean, hey, I got their stuff is cool, but America doesn't even produce b-boys no more.
Yeah.
If you tell average little kids,
turntables is not even something big deal.
The DJ was the first thing.
Or graffiti too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. There is an underground culture, just as MC freestyling. There is an underground culture of that. Freestyle rhymes and stuff. But it's just not this. It's just not like that anymore. As far as like mainstream. So I guess the underground revolutionary elements of it, it's there. It's just been dismantled and like separated in a way.
I think it is. I think part of it is. I think part of it though, people are just not as underground as they used to be. Even people are they're very political or they're not political, and the political they are now is more internet. It's not the same as going to protest.
What about conscious rap?
It's there, but I think what happened is sometimes, this is my opinion, I know you're not going to agree with it, I think sometimes back in the days, you would just MC. Like, honestly, back in the days, the way it was, you had to know all 4 or 5 elements just to even step on the stage, especially in the East Coast hip hop. But back when it first started, you had to be a graffiti artist, you had to be a b-boy, you had to be all of it. Then it kind of went down to just being an MC. And then I think what happened is, even when the record labels came in, some people who weren't as creative just said, let me start being conscious. So you had a whole bunch of fake conscious people where back in the days, to me, was more real. When Common Sense did I Used to Love Her, he was grounded in the streets of Chicago as well as being nice lyrically. Now a lot of people, like, they have even no street cred, or they can't get on the traditional party way, so then they be conscious. To me, underground, parties, everything in hip-hop is not the same anymore. It's different in all levels now, for my opinion.
Right. And then, so that golden age of hip-hop, what would you say was the golden age?
Well, I mean, some people could say it was when it first started in the 80s, some people say the 90s. I mean, traditionally, most people say now the 90s was the golden age of hip-hop.
But what about 2012?
Hip-hop now is horrible. I can't even...
So, okay, so here we go. Let's talk about this hip-hop when it comes to, like, Nas and Jay-Z. What do we think? And Tupac, Biggie.
I mean, all of them have their own strengths and weaknesses. I mean, all of them were cool in certain ways. I mean, they're all greats. I mean, those are all greats. I mean, there's nothing bad.
They all have elements of themselves that was within them.
That's unique. I can't, I think Nas, out of all 4 of them, might be the most pure MC in terms of just being an MC, nothing else. Like, just sometimes being able to just drop metaphorical rhymes that the regular person can't understand. I think he was probably the best of all 4 of them. And that, if we just talk about being a pure MC,
Yeah. Right.
I think Pac kind of had the spirit of what hip hop was supposed to be, the revolutionary type
Poetry
type heart. He just had heart. He just had, I mean, whether he was fighting the cops. I mean, it was like whether he was gonna stick up for the cops. I mean, not stick up for cops, fight cops.
He had a lot of heart when he
heart.
spoke. Like, he put a lot of his heart into it, and then also coming back, you know, with his mom and his upbringing and stuff like that.
Like sometimes people would say Pac was hypocritical because he would say "dear mama," then he would say "hit him up," but that was what he was. So see, for me, I don't mind hip hop if that's what you are. Like hip-hop,
if you're gonna do it, just be real about it. Don't do it just because like you want. Just like with anything, if you do it because your heart's in it.
Yeah.
You know, that's interesting. But then I guess what happened was the corporation came into the art and started saying, hey, we can make dollars out of this, and then it became completely different.
Of course.
And then, of course, when you have other, you know, it became derogatory, you know.
And if you look at
at some points,
if you look at the science of it, that's why the corporations took the elements out of it. It's easier to control if it's just the MC. I mean, back in the days, the DJs could play songs and stuff like that. Like, you didn't depend on radio as much because it was never on the radio.
Right, right.
You know, you had a mass underground movement that was just pushing this stuff.
Right, that's true.
And then even with the MCs and the graffiti artists, like, that's not radio. Like, you really can't control that. So
it's a culture that you can't control. Yeah. You basically have to, like, and if they don't know how to structure it to remarket it, repackage it, you can't do it. People it was genuine in its art. Breakdancing, you can't package that, you know?
You can, but not really. You know what I mean?
You can, but then they look like the dancers that are out now.
Yeah, I mean, but you can see the MC, the words, like, they made sure and just control that.
How do you feel about Eminem and Big Pun?
Well, I mean, again, you're saying legends. I mean, all of them are legends.
They'll have their own point.
I put him in those names that you said before. Like, I mean, M is the man. Like, I mean, whether you, even if you're not a total fan of him, you have to respect him. He came in as a battle rapper. Remember, hip hop in its purest form is battle. That was the pure hip hop, like battle. Like, I mean, you know, your neighborhood against this neighborhood. Whether you was breakdancing, whether you was graffiti, and whether you was MCing, it was like the battle. You represent where you from. Yeah. And he came in from that. I mean, he came in and beat Cannabis. You know, who at the time everybody thought was like. I mean, he is nice, but at the time everybody thought was the nastiest MC. He beat him. You know what I mean? So M is a legend. No
so what do you think about like North Carolina, like Little Brother and like Cool Keith and AC Alone and Del, the Funky Homo Sapien, like, you know, more like the underground. What do you think of those guys?
Little Brother, I wish their stuff got. I wish their stuff got more.
I liked it, and I think with Little Brother, it's cool because with they're cool because I can see girls liking it. Like I personally like underground hip hop, but what I'm saying is with them, I can see like mainstream girls liking it a little bit more because it has like that cool.
But you don't think in mainstream? Cool, you don't think if it goes to that? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. You don't think if the girls go to it, it loses what it is, or you think?
But that's how they are. But no, but see, with them, like, they're not really big right now. I mean, they're big, but they're not like they're not corporate
big.
They're big
in their circles, like they, you know, in the
underground circles. But what I'm saying is they can still keep the element of how they are now, and then still go big, and they'll still get that love.
What I'm saying, do you think that you could be underground and still be mainstream? Or you think you can't do like?
But that's their element. It'd be different if they changed it. Like, it'd be different if they were like Dead Prez, right? Just all like realism, like politics, and then all of a sudden they switched it up to like, let me sing with J-Lo on the hook. And then I'm like, okay, you're selling out because you went from being real to pop.
Wow. Okay. So let me ask you that question. So you think you don't think anybody who's underground could make a song with someone like J-Lo and be real?
Not really. Like if I heard like, you know, like I like AC Alone, but like and I like, there's a lot of them. But if you like one of those guys and then all of a sudden they're just like singing with like Miley Cyrus. Is that how you were originally?
You think Miley Cyrus is a little bit, no disrespect to her, a little bit more pop than J-Lo, or you think it's the same basically?
They're the same to me. But what I'm saying is, but then it's like, would you do that without them? Like, would you have a regular girl who's not famous in the neighborhood, suburban America, singing on your hook? If you wouldn't do it when you weren't rich, then why would you do it when you're rich? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean at the same time, I think sometimes you could show evolution too. Like, it's like saying, you know, you rhyme the one flow and you can't change. Like, I mean, it's true if it stays to your evolution. Like, some people, if it stays to your evolution, it's more true.
So, okay, well, then in that case, to play devil's advocate with you, that means I was saying, like, when hip-hop evolved into corporatism right now, how it is, and that's just part of evolution.
Well, you could say that. I mean, you could say that, but I'm being real.
Or is it de-evolution?
No, put it like this. You know, this whole world is about power, right? When hip-hop first came out, American hip hop, like when it went worldwide, all the other kids worldwide was playing American hip hop. Eventually, as hip hop started going selling out, their traditional local hip hop took over their countries, their regions. Now, when you go to certain hip hop spots, they invite French rappers as much as they invite American rappers. Like in a neutral area, that never used to happen before.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, if you look at what it's producing, they're less influential now than they were before.
Well, because you had to have the heart. So like,
what I'm saying is, it still didn't work for them because they're less influential than they were before. That's my point. Like,
well, I think the thing is like, well, then the question goes in evolution. Is it because something makes more money that means it's evolving?
I'm not talking about money. You can't, if you look at French hip hop, right? French hip hop still calls, you can't even, in French hip hop, you can't even be commercial to a certain level, and that's radio shit. Their radio shit, you can't even be commercial like that.
I don't know too much about French hip
But
hop.
I'm just saying, like, well, that's my point. Like, I'm not talking about the money, I'm talking about just the respect. You understand? It's not really just the money, it's just the respect. Like, you have rappers now who are they're totally selling an illusion of what they were. Well, back in days, you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Right.
Back in days, you were grounded in 4 or 5 elements. You had to be real what you were. You understand? Now, it's totally like, you got guys who are correction officers who are pretending to be gangsters.
Let me guess, are you talking about Rick Ross?
I'm just saying, like, it just keep it real. Like, you know, like, it is what it is. Like, you got, I mean, it's just totally different now.
I guess because back then
he has money. Like, he has more money than even Kool Herc, who some people say was the founder, African Bambaataa. Like, Rick Ross has more money than these guys, so it's not about, I respect Rick Ross because he has money. You understand? It's not, I'm just saying,
he's a great representation of the life of what people want to live. Because at the same time, a lot of people who are listening to hip hop right now are not living in the streets. This is suburban America.
Cool.
A suburban American kid, let's just say suburban America, whoever that is, when they listen to Rick Ross, they can relate to him.
Okay, man,
because they're like, hey.
Let me play devil's advocate. It's the same way when rock first came, right? I'm going to use when it first came. Let's say rock in the 80s, right? When a band started, they had to be underground. They had to, when I say underground, they had to play their shows. They had to be big for a year or two, nationwide in their shows. Like, you know, you play shows in Cali, then you go to Seattle. Like, before the radio even steps to you, they had to make sure that, because that's how it was. If those markets didn't mess with you, they wouldn't sign you as a label. You understand? That's not street. That's just being authentic what it is, because when they go on tours and do that stuff before they read a record, if you go on tour for a year or two before you get a record deal, you appreciate it more.
Right.
You understand?
That's true.
That art is living in you. If you got guys now who are just
factory made,
totally factory made. I mean, you got some guys, they weren't gangbanging when they were rappers, but now they gangbang when they're millionaires. And I've had gangbangers tell me that. You weren't gangbanging when you were a rapper, when you rapping hot boy stuff, but you're
gangbanging now that you're big,
that doesn't make any sense.
Like yeah. Do you think that hip hop will ever be like rock and roll, where it was like big at one time, then also you know everyone was wearing their feathered hair and their tight leotards and jumping into the crowds with their electrical guitars, and then
I think hip hop was just as big. I mean, I think it kind of way it is just as big.
But do you think it could like you know how no one does? There's rock, but now it's like classic rock or alternative rock.
Now it's kind of done.
It's kind of done. Do you think that that's going to ever happen with hip hop?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
Yeah, all things come to an end.
How long?
Well, I don't want to say how long, because you know you don't. But
I don't really. Yeah.
Because I think right now people are just listening to it because there's nothing else. See, when hip hop first came out, there's many other musics.
Right.
Now it's kind of like you listening to it because
we're being programmed consistently on the radio,
and there's not a lot of other musics. Like, it's almost like the culture. Like, music, entertainment is kind of a reflection of your culture. Would you agree? Like,
I agree.
And I think the culture itself is dying. Like, it's not even. I could dog hip hop. It's the kind of culture itself is kind of like.
That's true.
Everybody's kind of like.
There's no word diversity. There's no diversity.
Yeah, so it's not just hip hop. It's just the whole.
Yeah, because back when hip hop first started, you had Madonna. You had like
you don't even get people like Madonna no more. Honestly.
Yeah.
You know, so I just think it's not hip hop. I just think there's nothing else, so people just kind of like, fuck it, let me listen to it.
Wow.
You know,
interesting.
You know, back in the days, you had a lot of music competing each other.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, even dancehall and reggae was bigger back then than it was now.
That's true.
You understand? Like, now, dancehall sounds like hip hop.
But at the same time, with iTunes and a whole bunch of other things like that, people have the freedom to choose what type of music they want.
I agree.
So maybe that will slowly differentiate people's taste in music as well.
Like, do you think, like, when you were younger, like, there was excitement? Well, I think our time is up, so, you know, we can talk about this for all day.
I know. But 15 minutes is all you got, so.
All right.
Okay.
So, until next time.
Bye.